Okay, now we're going to do social studies. You'll need your social studies book and turn to page 124. We're going to do lesson 2, people settle. So we'll read it together and then we'll go over the questions. So, choosing a place to live. All people need food, water, and shelter. In some places, these things are hard to get. It's hard to grow food on rocky mountains. Deserts do not get enough rain for drinking water. Long ago, people could not choose to live in places like these. In some places, people can find the natural resources they need. The flat, rich lands of the Great Plains are good for growing food. Rivers provide fish and water. Once people decide to live in an area, they start to build things they need. They build roads and bridges to make it easier to get from place to place. They make homes for shelter. Communities begin to grow. So why do you think people would want to live by a river? Right, because it is a good source for food, fish, and water. And anything by a river is going to grow a lot easier because the soil is rich with nutrients. So what must people do if they choose a place that does not have all the things they need? Got to get them there themselves, right? They must get the things from another place or learn to do without. So when people started moving out to the deserts, they had to figure out how they were going to get water out there. They figured out how to get the electricity. We learned that yesterday. But they needed to figure out how to get water out there. And they needed to learn that we need something in our houses to keep us cool, for air conditioning. And a lot of people that live out in the deserts, they don't come out in the summer times because it gets over 110 degrees out there and it's kind of warm. Okay, let's turn the page. Rural areas. Communities can be different sizes. Kendra lives on a soybean farm in a rural area in Indiana. Rural areas are usually in the country, far away from a city. People's homes may be far apart. Kendra has to travel by car to visit her neighbors. It's not like somebody right next door that you can hop over the fence and walk on over. Page 127, people who live in rural areas can use the natural resources there to grow food and raise animals. They use wood from the trees for building homes. Many people in rural areas also sell resources and products to people in other areas. So why do many people in rural areas grow food and raise animals? For themselves, good, they grow food and raise animals for themselves to eat, but they also do it to make a living. They sell it to the bigger cities. They sell it to stores. They sell it to places where it's going to be, other people can get it to eat, and then they get money from that. That's how they make their money. Okay, turn the page. Urban areas and suburbs. Michael lives in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana. A city is an urban area. Urban areas have many businesses, homes, and people. Lots and lots of people. That's the bottom picture, is Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's not even a huge city. Like a big city is like Los Angeles or New York City in New York. Elena lives in Avon, a suburb of Indianapolis. A suburb is a smaller community near a city. It has quieter neighborhoods, less traffic, and bigger yards. And that's the little picture at the top. So where you live is a suburb of Los Angeles. That is the bigger city where a lot of people go into work and then they live in the suburb where they have a little more land. It's not as crowded, not as noisy, and their families can live in a big house and have a big yard. Okay, page 129. This map shows where people live in Indiana. The map key can help you find where rural, urban, and suburban areas are. So let's look at the map key. The red colors are where most people live, and that would probably be the urban areas. The yellow is where many people live, and that would probably, if you look there, the yellow is surrounding the red areas, so that's the suburban areas. And the green area is where the fewest people live, and that would be the rural areas where they have farms and ranches and things like that. So why do you think people live in suburbs? That's right, because they want a bigger house, or they want to have a yard with their house, or they want to live in a place where it's not so crowded and noisy and lots of traffic. But there is a lot of traffic in Rancho Cucamonga, but there's more traffic in Los Angeles, trust me. So the summary is people have settled in places with good natural resources. These places can be rural, urban, or suburban areas. So you're going to answer number 1 and number 2 on page 129. So let's look at those. Number 1 says, what are some of the reasons people choose to live in a place? Well, look at what Mrs. Toon has done. Okay, and no, I haven't answered them for you, but I've started the sentence out for you and get you the page number to look. So we have, people choose to live in a place because of its blank blank and because of the kind of blank it is. So remember what we talked about. It's on page 125. Let's look at 125 again. In some places, people can find the natural resources they need. The flat rich lands of the Great Plains are good for growing food. Rivers provide fish and water. Once people decide to live in an area, they start to build the things they need. They build roads and bridges to make it easier to get from place to place. They make homes for shelter. Communities begin to grow. So they also choose what kind of community they want to live in, right? If they want to live in a rural, suburban, or an urban community, that is also how they choose. Okay, let's go back to 129 and look at number 2. How is a suburb different from a city? Right. Let's look at page 128 for this one. I have a suburb is a blank community. A suburb is blank, has less blank and blank. Its homes have bigger blank. Okay, so let's look at page 129. Actually, we're going to look at the second paragraph. Elena lives in Avon, a suburb of Indianapolis. A suburb is a smaller community near a city. It has quieter neighborhoods, less traffic, and bigger yards. So, a suburb is a smaller community. A suburb is quieter, has less traffic, and if it has less traffic, it also has less people. Its homes have bigger yards. Very good. Gosh, you guys are so smart. Okay, so I will send this today so that you guys can look at it again and make sure you read it again and get to know what these words are: urban, suburban, and rural, because they will be on the final review quiz thing that you do at the end. Okay? See you in a little bit.